I mean, I think he's right, but remember two things. One, the economy is pretty good. People are voting for incumbents all over the country. John Kerry, Strom Thurmond, Jesse Helms. Only Bob Smith has been turned out of office. And they're voting for the incumbent president, Bill Clinton. For Bill Clinton to carry Massachusetts as handily as he did and lose the Senate seat for an incumbent Democrat, that would have been remarkable.
This was an important race for John Kerry because, as you all know, John Kerry has spent his entire Senate career in the shadow of that state's leading Democrat, Ted Kennedy. And he will be, I think, a clearly more effective senator now that the voters of Massachusetts know him better and he has this campaign under his belt.
He has a mandate. Our live coverage of Election Night 96 will continue in just a moment.
That's right.
Polls have now closed in 27 states. They're about to close in one more, Arkansas. We're watching the political news here at this desk, but not far away. Of course, there is other news happening, and CNN's Miles O'Brien will bring us up to date on that. Miles.
Thanks very much, Judy. Russian President Boris Yeltsin remains on a respirator hours after undergoing heart bypass surgery. Doctors say the 7-hour surgery was a success. They used blood vessels from other areas of Mr. Yeltsin's body to bypass 5 clogged areas of his heart. The next big step is removing him from the respirator and allowing his lungs to take over. Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin is running the government while his boss is recuperating, although doctors say Mr. Yeltsin may be able to resume some of his presidential powers within a couple of days. Chernomyrdin visited Mr. Yeltsin earlier today and then called the White House and reported the Russian president was, quote, doing well, unquote. Doctors can't predict when they'll release Mr. Yeltsin from the hospital, but they expect him to be back at work full-time by next year. Jurors deciding the Alex Kelly rape case have recessed for the day without reaching a verdict. They deliberated for a little under an hour. Kelly is accused of raping 2 high school girls 10 years ago when he was a high school wrestling star. During closing arguments today, Kelly's attorney said his client ran off to Europe on the day before his scheduled trial in 1987, not because he was guilty, but because he got scared. O.J. Simpson says he did not sexually harass an 18-year-old court intern, and she agrees with him, despite a published report. Amber McGrath says she declined Simpson's invitation to a Halloween party because it made her uncomfortable. Simpson told reporters they would have seen him if he had made any advances toward her. During today's testimony, police criminalist Dennis Fung said traces of blood were found in Simpson's bathroom. However, under cross-examination, he conceded no tests were done to confirm if it was human blood. The State Department says yesterday's dismissal of Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto and her cabinet appears to have been carried out in accordance with Pakistani law. Former Assembly Speaker Miraj Khalid was sworn in as interim Prime Minister. Pakistani President Farooq Laghari has called for new elections in February. Meanwhile, Bhutto's supporters took to the streets of Islamabad today to protest her removal. Bhutto is expected to challenge her firing in the Supreme Court, as she did 6 years ago when her first government was dismissed. Experts say the latest studies on treating breast cancer with the drug tamoxifen provide important new insight. The research shows that women who took tamoxifen for 5 years after early breast cancer surgery had anywhere from a 12 to 18% better chance of surviving without relapse than women who did not take the drug. The survival effect was measured 10 years after the women began treatment. Well, how well do you know your doctor? Has he or she ever been convicted of a crime, lost a major malpractice suit, or lost hospital privileges? Usually you'd have a tough time finding all that out, but Massachusetts has passed a disclosure law allowing patients to find out about their doctor's backgrounds. Other states are considering similar laws. CNN election night coverage for 1996 continues. Let's go back to Bernie Shaw.
Thank you, Miles, and our coverage will come right back here to the National Desk in just a moment after this local break.
It is 8:30 in the East, 5:30 on the Pacific time zone, and at this hour, Bill Clinton has won 204 electoral votes, 66 away from the magic number 207.
CNN coverage of Election 96. Live from CNN Center, here are Judy Woodruff, Bernard Shaw, Bill Schneider, and Ken Bodie.
So, gentlemen, the numbers pile up inexorably, I guess might be the right adverb at this hour.
We have now called 22 states, and of all those 22, only one state has shifted from what happened in 1992, and that's the state of Florida. That state went from Republican to Clinton this time. Every other state that Bill Clinton carried, Bob Dole carried, George Bush carried last time. That's clear.
And we've called a number of Senate races, and only one state has shifted its party in the United States Senate. New Hampshire, an incumbent Republican, has lost. The Democrats have picked up that one seat. What this suggests to me is it looks like a status quo election where people are voting for incumbents. They must be pretty happy.
Very much so, and as far as the House of Representatives is concerned, you can't say. All right, now Arkansas, the president's home state. Add Arkansas to the growing number of states going the president's way this night, as Ken and Bill alluded to. His early and overwhelming success was expected, of course, but at least one prize must seem especially sweet: the Sunshine State, Florida.
As we just heard from Ken Bodie. Well, the president picked up that GOP-leaning state, which Ken said, which he narrowly, and some say begrudgingly, lost 4 years ago. But Bob Dole has managed to hold on to two other key states that lean Republican, Texas and Indiana.
And South Carolina, CNN declares, has been won by Senator Dole. Bob Dole winning the Palmetto State. The two pickups so far tonight go to the Democrats, both in New Hampshire. It's interesting. In the Granite State Senate race, Dick Swett defeated Republican incumbent Bob Smith. And in that governor's race, Democrat Jeanne Shaheen won the seat of retiring Republican Steve Merrill, making her New Hampshire's first woman governor.
And we have a race to call, a Senate race to call right now, Bernie, and that is a Kansas B, a seat this is Bob Dole's seat, in fact. Sam Brownback, the Republican freshman congressman, has not only gone back to the Congress, he's gone back to the other chamber, to the Senate, defeating the Democrat Jill Docking, a wife of the former lieutenant governor of Kansas, Tom Docking.
Continuing now in a couple of closely watched Senate races tonight, the incumbents have come out winners. We told you about Democrat John Kerry in Massachusetts defeating Governor William Weld. And in the Tar Heel State, Republican Senator Jesse Helms is coming back to North Carolina. And Frank Sesno, what do you make of all this going on?
Well, what we make of it, Bernie, right now is pretty much as Bill Schneider said, that this is not a bad year for incumbents, at least not yet. We're watching this very closely. I want to take you back to the Kansas race that you just talked about, telling us that Sam Brownback is the winner there, and bring Bruce Morton into our discussion here as he helps us monitor the situation in the Senate. It's interesting. This was a place the Democrats thought they had a chance with Jill Docking. This was Bob Dole's old seat. She said this election is about it's the far right versus all of us who are in the middle.
There are a number of states, Frank. That was one. Louisiana's another. Here in Georgia was another, where the most conservative Republican won the primary. In Kansas, that didn't hurt. Sam Brownback, as we've just heard, got elected. Here, Guy Milner, who beat a more moderate Republican in the primary, lost. Still up in the air, Louisiana, where very conservative Woody Jenkins won that odd everybody in primary that they have.
Let's move elsewhere in the South, into the state of Alabama now, where Jeff Sessions facing down Roger Bedford, the Democrat. Sessions labeling Bedford, we heard this a lot this year, a Ted Kennedy ally, liberal, liberal, liberal.
Well, everybody's, Ted Kennedy for years has been the conservatives' best fundraiser. Milner in this state kept saying Cleveland's just like Ted Kennedy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
One place it's not bad to be just like Ted Kennedy is in Massachusetts, which takes us to John Kerry, who wins the state of Massachusetts. He ran on having increased education spending and funds for the elderly.
Sometimes, Frank, exit polls can really tell you something, just one number. And in Massachusetts, it's gender. Kerry and Weld were almost dead even among men. Look at women, a 20-point gap there. Kerry just overwhelmed Weld amongst women. And in the other race we've been talking about in New Jersey, where Robert Torricelli has beaten Republican Dick Zimmer, you find something of the same thing happening. That was an odd, muddy kind of a race.
Very nasty race.
What really made the difference was black voters. You look here, African-American voters, 83% for Torricelli. Now, that's just an overwhelming margin. They were, once again, the white vote was split pretty evenly between the two men, as you see here.
To another place where African-American voters played a key role. In fact, the issue of race played a very important role. The state of North Carolina, which North Carolina goes back to Senator Jesse Helms for 6 more years for the Republican. Helms ran a series of really tough ads, hitting his opponent, Harvey Gantt, African-American, with the liberal label again.
Well, the famous line, I guess, was more liberal than Bill Clinton. Gasp, shudder, too liberal for North Carolina. Helms always runs mean ads. I talked to one man down there who said, if you're running against Jesus, he'd find a way to attack him successfully. And they always work. This is a rematch. He wins again.
And again, what we're watching to see if the Senate moves to the Democratic column. They have to pick up 3 seats net tonight. So far, 1 in New Hampshire.
Open Southern seats still matter.
Still matter, and we'll be back. Over to the House and Stuart Rothenberg. You're watching the House with us. Coming into the night, we were watching 2 categories. Freshman Republicans, who had the albatross, the political albatross of Newt Gingrich being tied around their neck, and Southern open Democratic seats. Let's go to the freshmen first and to Kentucky 1, district there.
We have an allegedly vulnerable Republican freshman, Ed Whitfield. This is a western Kentucky district. Very, very Democratic, about 70% Democratic. Well, Whitfield has held on here to win over Dennis Null, a generally regarded as a second-tier Democratic candidate, but the sort of candidate who might have been swept in a huge Democratic way.
We were looking at that as a bellwether, but another one we've been watching is in North Carolina 4, where another Republican freshman is battling a challenge, also being tied to Newt Gingrich.
But the difference is here, Frank, in North Carolina's 4th, Fred Heineman, another freshman, was in the top 10 vulnerable Republicans. Whitfield was regarded in that second 10, second 15. And so Heineman's defeat, if indeed he does lose, would not be a shocker. David Price, former congressman, may well be coming back, but it's still too early to tell.
And if we hop off the beaten track a little bit to the state of Vermont, we see something that we don't see in American politics very often.
It's Congress's lone independent, Bernie Sanders. He doesn't really sound like a Vermonter, come to think of it. He sure sounds like a New Yorker to me. In any case, Bernie Sanders was supposed to have a tough fight. Susan Sweetser, an attractive Republican state senator. Early on, Republicans thought they could do it, but they didn't this time.
They don't call them carpetbaggers in Vermont. They call them flatlanders. I know by experience. Okay, we'll be back as we continue to watch the congressional desk. Remember, in the House, we're watching if 19 seats move to the Democrats, then it is Speaker Dick Gephardt, not Speaker Newt Gingrich. Much work to be done, much to be determined before we can pass off on that one and see what exactly the trend is developing. So that's it from the congressional desk for now. Back to Bernie and Judy on the national desk.
Thank you, Frank. Indeed, in 20 minutes, the polls in 12 more states will close. CNN's live coverage on this election night will continue in just a moment. We'll be right back.